Hello and welcome to English 323, Literature of Hawaii. My name is Mark Panic and I'm a professor here in the English department at UH Hilo. I'm happy to be teaching this course yet again. This is one of the more interesting courses that I get to teach because of all the provocative questions that come up when you simply pick up a book that somebody has written about this place. Who wrote the book? Was it somebody who should be writing a book about this place? Is it an insider? Is it an outsider? Is it an indigenous writer? Is it a settler colonialist? Is it a tourist? What has been written about this place, and what has that impact been upon what was subsequently written about this place? All these incredible questions come up anytime you pick up anything that has been written about Hawaii, whether it's from the initial missionary accounts or from the initial celebrity accounts from Mark Twain, or whether it's something you find in your commercial bookstore in New York City that's written by somebody who came here and decided to research and then say that they knew what the story was, or whether you found it in your local airport back in 1977. This one is still taking up a lot of the oxygen in the room, or whether it was in fact written by local people, and what in fact do we mean in Hawaii when we say local? Does it just mean that they're folks of this place, or does it have some other connotations that are a little bit more political and cultural than just that? Was it written by some indigenous writers who are trying to decolonize the literature of Hawaii and tell their own stories? Was it written, was it told for many centuries before it was ever committed to writing, like something like this? Was it written by an indigenous writer who no longer lives here? And what does that mean? Was it written by the professor of your class? No, don't worry, you're not going to be subjected to things that I've written, but if you'd like to, these are a couple of them. This one, and then we have the story of Chad Rowan, the first non-Japanese to attain the highest rank in sumo, called Gaijin Yokozuna, where we have maybe some kind of answer if we're talking about intertextuality between something that was written many, many years ago and something that that needed to be said now. And was that okay? Should it have been written? Should it have been written by someone else? Is it taking up the space or speaking for other people? All these questions are things that come up anytime you've read anything that has been written about this place. Now, we only have a few weeks to be doing this, and there are hundreds and hundreds of incredible things that you could be reading that would fall on a reading list for this course if we had the privilege of doing it indefinitely, which I'm still doing, and a lot of my colleagues are. So then we're left with the question of, well, what made the cut? What do you have on the list? That issue of literary canonicity is something that we may also address, but it's not really the objective of this class to single out certain pieces of writing as being worthy of a scholarly endeavor like the one you're headed towards. What we're mainly interested in is that by the end of this 6-week journey of intensive reading, you're going to be able to pick up pretty much anything that has been written about this place and have the critical tools to be able to figure out what's going on. Who wrote it? What was at stake? Who was unable to write it because someone else did? Was somebody speaking for somebody else? Was somebody, in fact, by writing it, committing an important political act? Was something else going on? Was it answering a text that had been written a couple of years earlier, or decades earlier? Or was it trying to stand alone as some kind of unique voice? All of these questions should come up when you read pretty much any book, right, and any work of fiction, but they're right on the table when you're talking about literature of Hawaii. And let's just, before we move on, we'll look again at the name of the course, which is Literature of Hawaii. It is not Hawaiian literature. Now, if you're not from here, or if you're new to these islands, you might want to start thinking even about how that word Hawaiian gets thrown around in places other than here. Someone from California may be Californian, and someone from New York may be a New Yorker. But just because you are from Hawaii does not make you Hawaiian. Just because you may have even been born in Hawaii, that does not make you Hawaiian. And when we're talking about using that word, we're talking about Kanaka Maoli. We're talking about indigenous people, native Hawaiians. That is certainly a big part of the conversation that is about to happen as you move into English 323. But we also want to give you the critical tools to be able to say, my goodness, what's going on with this? What was he thinking? What is the context in which this was written? What were the consequences of having written it? What are the things that followed that tried to answer it back? And you could do that with any of these texts that we're looking at too, including things that were written later by indigenous writers, things that were written later, or things that in fact were written around the same period by folks who lived in Hawaii for many years, but were not in fact indigenous. Okay, the mechanics of the course should be pretty self-explanatory on your Laulima webpage, but my phone number is there on the syllabus. You can email me. Do take any opportunity to get in touch with me, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have about the syllabus or the texts that were selected, or how we're going to be discussing them as we move ahead to the kind of more sustained focus that we have at the end of the class in the form of your term paper. But thanks for being here, and we're going to have a great summer. Thank you.